to pull up the slide deck.
Okay. You are about 5 minutes early, Mark.
Yeah, I start at 55 because it takes 5 minutes to get this.
All right, it doesn't matter. I'm going to take this the next step. So we welcome. All right, we welcome everybody to our event tonight. As I said earlier, the IEEE Boston Consultants Network (CNET) is an affinity group associated to the IEEE Boston. And we have a very simple leadership team, a very small one. As you can see, we are three of us. I am the one who is the chairman. Mark, beside being the webmaster, is the treasurer, and he also carries in his knowledge base the history of the CNET because he's a member for a long time. And we have Charlie Sweet, who is the secretary. Mark is running his own consultancy under Silver Bullet Engineering. Charlie is transitioning in consulting right now. It's last years or so of being directly employed, but he is very valuable to bring his experience to us. So we are very happy to have him. After many years working in the industry, I'm running a small consultancy focused on leadership and engineering leadership, technical leadership, entrepreneurial leadership, things which most companies believe they have, but they don't. Now, the section of IEEE Boston Consultant Group, it's relatively stable for part of IEEE. Almost all the people we are going to hear, all the people who are presented tonight who are members of CNET are also members of IEEE. The advantages are more or less the same advantages which every other membership in consulting professional group brings to you, besides some recognition that also gives an ability to relate to your peers from time to time to exchange war stories. We invite our members, if they wish to, to attend the board of director meetings. So we keep it very open and very informative. We have a modest fee. We charge people to be member of our CNET group. If you are an IEEE member, you get a discount. So indirectly, we encourage people to be members of IEEE. And while as we heard from, before that IEEE is getting very, very large in activities and so on and so forth, at the same time, we found that in some other places, the IEEE recognition in companies is not what used to be. So we are working with IEEE to enhance the visibility of IEEE people within their companies. Personally, I'm an IEEE meeting since 1967, and right now I'm a life fellow. So I've seen all the phases and all the stages of IEEE, and I really have a deep appreciation for what has done in the past and what is doing. At the same time, very much interested in how this activity can be enhanced in the future. If you would like to join our network, here are the addresses where you can connect with us. If you want to ask us a question, you can feel free to go in conversation with us. Mark, may I go next? The agenda tonight, it's fairly simple. We are going to have a panel of 3 speakers, and will be the presentation. Each presentation will be roughly 20 minutes or so, and then we'll open the floor for question and answer. And God willing, we'll stop the meeting at 8:30. The question also can be put in real time in the chat window. And I think they were ready to go, Mark. Let's bring the presentation.
Okay, I'm putting up a poll. This will help us to gauge how we should speak to you. If everybody says I'm an expert on consulting and use of consultants, then we'll speak at an expert level. So if many of you can fill that out as possible, that helps us gauge how we're going to present. If you have a hard stop at 8, I'm sorry, but we're going to be going a little bit later than 8. I don't think we can get this in before 8. And I'll close that poll in about 30 seconds. Okay, that's probably good enough. Share the results. And 22% expert, 17, I know a lot, 44% know something about it, and 17% don't have a lot of information about the topic. So appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Soren. He's going to use his slide deck.
Yeah. Bringing it on your screen, Mark?
No, it's not on the screen.
Well, you don't bring the slides on your screen?
Oh, I thought you would be bringing them up. I'll get it.
I think it will be easier if everybody comes from your screen.
Okay.
Who was presenting the poll?
I was presenting the poll.
And who are you?
Mark Fitzgerald.
Ah, okay. That helps. See, it's hard to tell whose mouth is moving here sometimes.
Let's see what we have here.
Mark is our master of ceremony here. All right. So tonight we have a panel of consultants who are going to present in the order presented here. All three are part of the CNET. All three are members of CNET. The first presentation will be by David Connor from, can we go one back?
Oh, one back? Okay.
David Connor, who is a very experienced consultant with Stripper Solutions. Then Larry Nelson will speak, and he's part of Nelson Research. And among us, Larry is very well known nationally. And then Mark Fitzgerald will close. He works with Polet Engineering. I'll be just the moderator. My consultancy, it's XXN International. Next, please. Thus, I already talk about that all the members are, all the speakers are members. And the topics we are going to discuss tonight will be in this order. We decided to start with an example of a very useful activity for a consultant, speaking about the crucial role a consultant in medical device regulatory field for companies and how choosing the right consultant with the right expertise avoids all the mistakes and makes the company to deliver on time, on budget, and on schedule. So we decided to start with the example of how a consultant can bring real value very, very quickly to an activity. After that, Larry is going to discuss in a broader brush the rationale and the benefits of hiring a consultant, and will point out why consultants continue to be very relevant and very important for many companies to achieve their financial and business goals. And finally, Mark will go and do a full coverage of the basic facts about being a consultant, what does it mean, what is required, and learning from experience we have here to share with other people. So very first presentation, as I said, will be about medical devices and how they are regulated in the industry, and how having a consultant who has a proper expertise will bring tremendous benefit in-house for the people working on the project, and will show why the regulatory field in particular, working with a very knowledgeable consultant is very, very useful and very, very, it makes a lot of sense from a business point of view. So the presenter is David O'Connor. David Connor, are you there?
Hello, good evening. Ready, all set to go?
Ready to go, David. It's all yours.
Okay. Let me take over.
Please.
Hopefully you can see something.
Yes.
There we go. Okay. Go ahead and hey. Okay. I am experiencing a lag. It's making things a little strange. Okay, I'm Dave.
You don't
Yep.
have the slideshow started. You have the full deck out, just to let you know.
Is that? Oh, you're seeing the other screen. Hold on. That's why I was seeing the lag. Okay.
There you go.
There we go. All right. We're through the technical aspects. My name's Dave Connor. I'm a consultant in the Boston area. I'm actually out of southern New Hampshire. My specialty for consulting is product regulatory compliance. And I do a lot of work with helping people, helping companies get their products to comply to specific standards, getting them through EMC, getting the product CE marked, getting through FCC testing, all sorts of things to do with product regulatory compliance. My background, however, is not specifically in compliance, it's actually in product development. And I was in engineering management for 20 years, working in every management position up through VP of engineering. And I've done a lot of development of products that are shipped globally. And that's how I got into the consultancy part of it. Now, this evening, we're going to talk about medical devices and medical device development and consulting for medical device development. I'm not going to come at this from the consultant standpoint. I'm actually going to come at it from the other side, so that from a consultant, you can see what would be important to a developer in that area. So I'm going to talk about some of the history that I have with that, and we'll talk about ways that as a consultant you can make a difference in this area. So when you talk about accelerating medical device development, one of the first things that people think about from a consultant standpoint is access to specialized expertise. So you say, well, consultants can bring an in-depth knowledge to niche areas. They say, well, why can't I just use, I've got engineers on board. I've got good people on board. Why do I need a consultant? So let me tell you a story about one of the first times I used a consultant as an engineering manager. And this had to do with a new product that we had just introduced. It had, at the time, these were violet laser diodes were new to the market, and they would blow up at you'd wave a field across them, and they'd blow up like crazy. And they were expensive. And once you put them in your product and you shipped it out to the field, if that blew up in the field, it was very expensive to replace. So naturally, they were blowing up in the field, and they were being very expensive to replace. And I had some very, very good electrical engineers working for me. And we went over it and over it and over it and could not figure out what was going on. So I said, we just can't figure it out. We need some help from the outside. Let's bring in a consultant. So I offered the consultant, I said, we've got this problem. Here's what's going on. And I want you to go through our electronics, and we'll meet with you first. We'll show you how all this stuff works. And he says, no. I don't want to know that. I want to see the schematics. I want to go through it myself. I don't want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to look at it my own way. He came back 2 days later, said, can we have a meeting with all the engineers? We had a meeting with all the engineers. He said, well, what does this do? What does this do? And he points to a single capacitor on the board and says, what does that do? And one of the engineers that had been there 30 years says, well, that capacitor was put in one of these original designs, back 15 years ago, that's supposed to decouple noise off to the chassis. Decouple noise to the chassis. The consultant turns to us and says, it works both ways, right? And as soon as he said that, we all realized what we have been doing. You can't see the forest for the trees if you've been doing it that way for the past 15 years. That one thing saved us tens of thousands of dollars worth of field failures. Just to point at that capacitor. So we all ran around clipping that capacitor off the electronics after that. But that just gives you an idea about the importance of having a person in a spot where you may have some very, very good people, but you need a different perspective. And a consultant can provide that perspective. And it's actually a good thing that they're not on your team, because they need an outside perspective to give you, to really give you good advice. And I think that's one of the very helpful, interesting things that people don't realize when they think about consultants are only people that do a specific task. Well, consultants can be people that can help you think. And I think that's a major thing to think about, especially in the area of medical device development. Another thing from a management standpoint has to do with overhead. Medical device development and manufacture requires a lot of specialized equipment, a lot of high-end people. How many times does a development project like this wind up not only taking over all the area that you have, but you send the software guys out to the annex now because you don't have enough room because you had to bring in a bunch of test equipment, especially in the area of medical device development, where you require a lot of specialized equipment, specialized people, specialized process. The overhead in that area from a development standpoint is very high. Consultants are low overhead. When you think about how much does it cost you per hour to bring in a consultant, remember that the projects that you're working, you're paying for the people, the unemployment, the sick time, your building, all the other stuff that goes around there attached to that. And a consultant can provide, especially in medical device development, a low overhead option that you could place somebody in a specific role for a specific amount of time without having to go through hiring new people, taking them on in that role, and taking on all the overhead associated with that. I think it's one of the things that people don't necessarily think about when they're thinking about projects. Well, one of the real benefits to using a consultant is a low overhead person that you can stick into an area that may have really high overhead costs. Another area that consultants can help accelerate medical device development is in risk management. So risk management, there are many different areas where when you're doing development, especially for medical devices, that you can run into risk. So you're doing design that has to meet specific standards, specific safety standards. Do your people understand all of those specific standards, or do you really need an outside person to come in, look at it from an outside view, and tell you whether or not they think it meets those standards? When you are trying to, your development process in the medical device area all has quality management standards that have to be met. How you manage those quality management standards from an engineering process you can overwhelm your engineering process with management, with quality management procedures And it's oftentimes a good plan to have an outside person come in, review your process, and see if you can streamline your process according to the latest standards and to help out and improve your quality management system. So it's just a different way. We're almost always talking about it from a consultant standpoint, and what I do as a consultant and how I go and present myself to customers. I'm trying to turn this around a little bit and talk about this from a customer standpoint. How are consultants really important to them, and maybe in areas that they're not thinking about? So it's a good thing for us to remind them of from a consultant standpoint. So I'm going to talk about 3 critical areas of medical device development. When we talk about technology innovation, we're talking about companies that are high-tech companies developing new technology. Those companies are trying to spend their time on technology development. They have their engineers working on the part of it that will develop the technology, but they're not thinking about risk management, and they're not thinking about QMS systems because they're small. They're trying to develop technology, and that's where they're centered on. Well, when they go to try to sell that technology to a larger medical device company, if they haven't implemented QMS, some sort of QMS system, then they're not going to be as valuable, because that company's going to have to go back and look and apply all the QMS standards and redo part of the development of that product. So an area that small medical device companies need to think about is, how can we implement an adequate QMS system for the type of development that we're doing? And a consultant is a good way to come in, work with you on that. And you don't need them full time. You need them to help develop the process and then go away and let you use the process. So another area, safety, compliance, and risk management. We talk about mechanical, electrical, optical, and EMC. There are safety compliance. You have to develop products that are compliant to specific standards. There are consultants that have specific knowledge of those standards and can help you get through that, especially when you get to the point where you've got your product developed, you've got it at the EMC test site, and you're failing emissions. What do? Well, do you take your engineer who's trying to finish up the design, you take him off and send him off to the EMC test site and then lose 2 weeks on your project schedule? Or do you have a consultant come in, understand what's going on at the EMC test site, and then work with your engineering department to resolve the problem back with your engineering department? And then finally, manufacturing. A lot of times people don't think about consultancy for medical device manufacturing, but when you're doing product certification, that's only one part. That's the end part of the product development process, but you need help. You need help getting your product certified. That's an excellent place from a consultancy standpoint to help companies get their product finished, get it through with the agency, and meet the standards that they have to meet for the product. And then another place that people don't think about, but from a business standpoint makes a whole lot of sense, is when you bring that product to manufacturing, you need specialized test fixtures to help you meet the compliance requirements. You don't need somebody to do those all the time. That's a good place for a consultant to come in, help you build the test fixtures and meet your requirements. So just quickly, so So quickly, critical applications for consultants, projects with time-limited scope. So things like feasibility studies, proof of concept, troubleshooting, and complex technical issues. Projects requiring specialized expertise, things like embedded systems, ASIC design, medical device software, integration of AI, image processing, safety, EMC, regulatory, and projects with fluctuating resource needs, where you only need someone you need someone with specific skills for a specific amount of time. You don't want to take on permanent people to do that. You need a low overhead way of providing extra capacity and investigating or exploring new technologies for future products. So that I think I kept right on my schedule here, and so that ends what I was going to present this evening. Mark, I hand it back to you. Soren, you appear to be
unmute myself. Okay, back to presentation PowerPoint. And sorry, getting back here. Soren's going to introduce the next presenter. Oh, okay. I'll introduce the next presenter. Next presenter is Larry Nelson Sr., and he will tell you about what his talk is about.
Okay. Let me bring my screen up. And there we go. I'm going to be talking about how a company will benefit from using a consultant. And I've been doing consulting since 1980, and I started off primarily with electronics design consulting. And as I go through things, you'll see some of the things that I bring into it as a consultant. But again, I want to look at it from the viewpoint of the company. Why does a consultant add value? They unlock innovation, and they can bring more efficiency into things. Probably the biggest thing, and what David had mentioned, was you don't have to commit to a long-term expense in infrastructure to cover short-term needs. And you can get your project completed quickly with the more limited resources that you have available, especially if you are a startup company. Consultant can have several different roles and responsibilities. Some of their responsibilities include problem solving, providing specific expertise, offering unbiased perspectives. They are not your employee. They have not been invested in your product and project from the beginning. And they can come into the thing and say, hey, you know, this part of it was kind of the wrong direction. You need to back up a little bit and go down this path because you were going down a rabbit hole. Obviously, when we present our perspectives, we've got to use a little bit of tact, because people that have been on the team from the very beginning, last thing they want to hear is that they made a mistake or that something is going in the wrong direction. You're going to be driving results. Consultant needs to hit the ground running, and the customer expects that. They're paying a premium for for the consultant's abilities. There's all types of consultants, information technology, IT consultants, technology consultants that are drilling down into specific technology areas. You've got regulatory consultants, people that all they do is deal with, for example, FDA. So they know all the ins and outs. They also know people within the various regulatory agencies so that they can walk in and say, hey, look, you know me, here's the problems, here's how we get around them, this is what we're going to do. I went in as a consultant with a couple of electronics manufacturers for military equipment, and they had to go through all kinds of sign-offs within the military technology sign-offs, and they didn't know the people within the agencies to be able to get them to understand what it was that they were doing. And even project management, a lot of times you've got the technology guy sitting there, but the project keeps getting derailed because they're not all going to a common goal or common focus. So you may need to bring in a project manager as a consultant. Some of the challenges that the companies face are the limited in-house expertise, and primarily it tends to be focused expertise. There's resource and time constraints. The field is expecting this product by such and such a date, and you've got enough resources to keep running until this point in time, but you don't have the expertise for this one specific technology that you need. So you need to be able to bring in a consultant or somebody from outside that can focus on that one tight area. A lot of times there's new technologies. It was mentioned about the LEDs that were problematic. If you can bring in an expert on that particular technology, not necessarily the way that you're using it, but to be able to point out all the little gotchas that are hidden that maybe you don't understand, things that didn't make it into the app notes. The companies have competitive pressures. If they don't hit the market before their competitors do, then they have to compete on other things like price. The last thing a company wants to do is say, yeah, we do this too. They want to be able to say, hey, look, we're leading the field and this is how we're doing it. So you've got these competitive pressures you've got to work against. The number of companies that I've gone into that have production problems and production concerns, they started off with a physicist and a couple of technicians, and they built a product that was better than anything else on the market. And everything was great. Then they had to build a second unit that didn't behave the same as the first. Then they built a third, and that one was a little bit different again. How do you productize this thing and get into production and build these things in volume? Another area quite often is marketing your product. You may have built this great medical device, and you may know this area, or you may have built, for example, I did some work with a semiconductor equipment manufacturer recently, and they were designing and building ion beam implanters. And they had some of the best ion beam implanters in the world, period, bar none. And one of their employees who had been a consultant and worked with other industries started looking at this implanter and said, gee, I've got an idea for using this in a field where you really don't traditionally see an implanter. We want to get in there and do some etching. And they found out that they could get like an order of magnitude speed up in certain processes using this implanter along with etching. So that opened up a whole new market. And this guy was able to work with the customers who were the wafer fabs. And for volume chip manufacturing, if you can cut your production time by 20%, your efficiencies go up and your costs start to drop down, and you've got something that none of your competitors can do. So they're still leading the market with this technology that's just coming out. So when it comes down to the benefits of hiring a consultant, you're bringing in expertise and specialized knowledge. You're bringing in fresh, unbiased perspectives. they're going to look at what you've got, not what you think you've got, not what you were aiming for, but what's physically there, and be able to help you to achieve your goals. And they can do this in a cost-effective manner because, as was said, you're not covering all the associated overhead with that consultant. And one of the really nice things about using a consultant is when the job is done, the consultant goes away. And 6 months from now, if the problem pops up that was something that wasn't considered at the time, usually that consultant is available to come back in for a short-term project to help you over that hump. Another area is designing subsystems outside of the core competence and away from the product. If you're designing an ion beam implanter, you don't necessarily want to have somebody on staff that's a power supply expert who's going to be used for 3 months and then, okay, I've got my power supply. What else you got for me? Well, what else can you do? No, you don't want an employee where you get into that situation. Instead, you've maybe bought something off the shelf to get your proof of concept, and now you bring in a consultant to help you bring that into the product. And consultants tend to know all the various industry best practices. So they work for multiple industries, a lot of them. And they can come in and say, hey, when you start building this and you're doing a power supply and you're doing, switch mode power supply, and you're doing it like this, here's some things to be aware of, which you weren't necessarily aware of when you were just buying it off the shelf and it worked. When it comes down to finding a consultant, you've got local networks like the Boston CNET, and there's a link here in my presentation for that. For all of those of you that are all across the country, you can go to a national network like the IEEE USA, and there's a list of IEEE USA consultants. So if you go into Google and search for IEEE USA, you can find a list of all the consultants networks that are affiliated with IEEE USA. And then they have that Collaboratech set up with the IEEE USA consultants, which I belong to the IEEE USA consultants group. I belong to Boston CNET. I belong to New Hampshire CNET. I'm one of the founders and belong to Worcester County Section, which is in central Massachusetts, consultant network. So there's a lot of areas that you can plug into, both as a consultant and as a company looking to hire consultants. I really don't want to spend a lot of time on case studies per se, but one of the things that I want to talk about just real quick is cost savings through some initial design decisions. If you bring a consultant in very early when you first start going through to design a new product, they can ask a lot of the tough questions and help you get focused. You can then back off away from that consultant, start going through and pulling everything all together, and then bring the consultant in for their expertise, for focused expertise points, or bring in a different consultant if your initial one doesn't have the expertise in that narrow focus area that you're really looking for. But the number of times that I've had clients work with me during initial design consultations, and sometimes they just walked away from a product because they realized that they didn't want to be in that business after all. I've got one client that I've worked with for many years that does motorcycle aftermarket products. And he had this brilliant idea for tying the brake light system with all kinds of modifications in through the ABS system. And we had an initial consultation, and within an hour, we went through all of the pros and cons, and he realized he really didn't want to touch the ABS system on the motorcycle, because if something went wrong with the braking system and his system plugged into any part of the ABS system, the first thing the lawyers would say is, oh, look, this isn't the way it was originally designed. here's this aftermarket piece plugged into the ABS system. How do we know that that didn't mess up the ABS? So that 1 hour of consulting saved him all kinds of potential on litigation. And sometimes we came up with ways to do one board design that incorporated 15 or 20 different products, which again was huge cost savings. Whereas he was originally looking at a list of 15 or 20 products and assuming, he'd have to do a different board for every one and so on. You can have tailored solutions for your business needs, personalized solutions, proof of concept prototypes for your product, maybe IT modernization. When you're selling your product, the paper and mailing list stuff that you were doing just doesn't hack it. It doesn't scale properly. Optimizing your processes. How do you make things work better? How can you modify things in your product design to design for manufacturability? I tell a lot of my clients, hey, you can build one of anything and make it work. What happens if they order 100? What happens if they order 1,000? So there's these tailored solutions to what your business needs. Maybe you're making something that you're only ever going to build 10 of. You don't necessarily need that design for manufacturability or process optimization for that. Instead, you want to be able to utilize as much stuff as you can off the shelf because you're only going to build 10. So if each individual item costs a little bit more, but you save all that NRE, that's a win. On the other hand, if all of a sudden you've got to build 1,000 of these, chopping an extra, $10 out of your BOM costs may start making sense. And if you're going up into the millions, hallelujah, every penny counts. Common objections to consultants. Consultants are expensive. What you need to do is you need to compare the one-time expense with early market entry and lower manufacturing costs. So when you see that consultants are expensive, compared to what? What are you saving by using that consultant? Another big objection is we know our business best. We bring in a consultant, they don't know what we do. Well, sometimes that helps because fresh perspectives from other industries can be leveraged to an advantage. And a big one that I get from a lot of these leading edge, bleeding edge companies, IP is at risk. A consultant's reputation is critical. Any consultant that's serious about what they're doing will not risk the rest of their career by violating any type of confidentiality. That employee that you hired who's working out on the production line, on the other hand, if he feels he's been wronged when you lay him off, he's more than willing to go to your competitor and help them with the tips and techniques and tricks that you've learned over the years and taught him. So when it comes to a consultant, your IP is, I think, better protected than it is by most employees. So in summary, hiring a consultant limits exposure when you're trying something new. There's no need to build in-house capabilities for one-shot needs. And sometimes just the act of defining the project for the consultant helps the company organize things more precisely. I'll look at a company and I'll say, hey, this is my hourly rate, but I'll give you a fixed price quote if you can give me a good solid spec. And if you want me to help you develop the spec, this is how much per hour I charge to do that. And a lot of times just getting everything all organized and what it is they're trying to accomplish can end up saving them a lot of time and a lot of money in the long run. So Q&A questions and all that stuff are going to be handled at the end. And my contact information is in this presentation, but it'll also be at the end. And one thing I just wanted to mention to everybody is anybody that wants a copy of this presentation, I will do a PDF version of that and email it out to you if you send me an email request for a copy of the presentation. And I think that wraps things up from my point on this here. So Looks like I'm at 7:39, so I'm 1 minute under what my presentation limit was.
Awesome, Larry. Really good. I'm not sure if I'm sharing properly. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Oops, this is the wrong one.
Our next speaker is Mark Fitzgerald. He's going to speak about the basic elements of the consulting practices and what somebody should consider when thinking of becoming a consultant. Mark, please go ahead.
Awesome. I've been a consultant for a number of years. I'm incorporated. I specialize in safety critical systems like medical device development, robotics, safety critical systems. I'm going to talk about becoming a consultant. I have a few slides that are almost the same perspective as what we've already been discussing. So a brief introduction about how you can effectively communicate with consultants, how to find the right consultant, how to interact with that consultant. Then I'm going to segue into being a consultant, which is the primary focus of this talk. Why I'd want to become a consultant, the type of consultants that are out there, the easiest way to break into consulting, the advantages of being a consultant, and the work you have to put in to be a consultant. So when you're looking for a consultant, first decide if you need one. Are you lacking resources in some way? There's a lot of things that Larry has already covered. Your team is having an issue with technical knowledge in a specific area. One thing we haven't mentioned is technical debt. What happens when you've got your team working on your new product, but your existing product in the field has defects in it and you need them fixed quickly? Are you going to pull your team off the new development? That can be a problem. So you might fall behind in scheduling. And the other problems you might have is you might have several projects that you're trying to manage. When you context switch a team, it's usually a big problem, and people have issues context switching. Another reason for a consultant, you want the problem fixed quickly. So falling behind on company goals can be a real red flag. If you're continually running an agile sprint and you're not meeting the stories in those sprints, it's going to stick out like a red flag because it's agile scrum is completely transparent. So it's going to, the project managers, the senior staff are going to recognize that you're not going to meet your schedule. So if you've decided to look into a consultant, what do you need to know in order to effectively find that consultant? Experience. Find a consultant that possesses the experience in your area of need, and also know the tool set that you're working with, because that's important, because the consultant really needs to know your tool set. Market. Most consultants have a specialty market. For instance, maybe it's medical devices. Not all consultants work in medical devices. Not all consultants know the rigors of working in a regulated environment like in medical devices. They'd have to know the FDA standards. They'd have to know FDA advice, all sorts of industry standards. So find a consultant in your market specialty. Availability. Consultants are often booked in advance. If you scope your needs during your project planning, it's going to help you find the right consultant. Concerned about using consultant? Consultants bring IP to your project. They don't take IP away, nor reuse it. It's just what Larry said. Don't be concerned about your IP. We protect our clients and our reputation. We also provide documentation. When we leave, we're going to leave you in a better spot than when we came in. We know that we're not staying forever. That means we have to document our work fully so that people can work on whatever the projects we're working on and continue that, and at least know what we've done. Consultants reduce risk. If you bring a consultant early in the design process We can help you identify and resolve difficult issues and also help you with your project plan. Use appropriate sources to find a consultant. Oftentimes, companies turn to a headhunter. Well, you could turn to organizations like IEEE, Boston CNET. You're going to find the same consultant at Boston CNET that you will find through a headhunter. We don't take any fees. Why not just go direct to the source? So I would recommend finding a direct source link. So what do you need to, so you're thinking about talking with a consultant. How do you talk to the consultant? I would recommend you don't do the NDA up front. Talk about non-confidential information. There's no sense in signing an NDA that's valid for like a year when you don't even hire that person. And the consultant has to review that NDA. They might not want to do that if it's an initial conversation. Have a company description, market description, the job description, project description. Send those off in an email to them so they get acquainted with that before you have the conversation. Have in the back of your mind the top 3 tasks and goals that you want that consultant to complete and a timeline that you want them completed in. You're going to want to know the consultant rate. You're going to want to be able to tell the consultant the length of the contract. And if there's a work hours restriction per week, like you're going to say, all right, you can only work 40 hours a week. And then if you're saying you can only work 40 hours a week, but there's exclusivity involved, you can only work for us during this period of time. Those are things that a consultant wants to know. Email is easier to convey simple things like the job description, the project description, your preferred rate and schedule. Time box your initial conversation to 30, 40 minutes. You're just checking for initial compatibility. Get preliminary information back from that consultant, their availability, interest in taking the contract, legal information. Are they incorporated? Do they have insurance? Do they have workers' comp? Ask the consultant to give you their 2-minute speech. Every consultant has a 2-minute speech. If they come back with a 10-minute speech, you're going to have to think about that a little bit. Get concise information. They know how to do a 2-minute speech. Maybe it's 3 minutes, but it's a quick speech. They'll give you a lot of information in that in those few minutes. You're going to ask resume-related information because you'll have the resume in front of you. You're going to want to delve into technical information that's related to your product. Technical testing, that's always part of the project. Past project work that's related to your field, and especially tool set knowledge. Consultants should really know your tool set. If you're working with an NXP product and you're working with LPC Open as the HAL for that, that might be important to you that the consultant understands what that HAL is. That's the hardware abstraction layer. All right, so you found out that you really do want to continue the conversation with the consultant. Sign mutual NDAs, that's better, or an NDA. Give specific technical information about the project. Give tools and processes, information that the consultant will be required to use. If you have a specific build server, a specific schematic capture tool, that's always good to know. You're going to ask the consultant to provide you with help you with your key requirements. Does the schedule make sense to them? Tell the consultant your top 3 goals at that point and your timeline to complete them in. Telling consultant about your team is always helpful. The reporting structure, if they have to interface with many managers, project leads, things of that nature as you delve into the deeper into the conversation. Company policies and processes that might affect the consultant. If you're running Agile Scrum, they might need to know that. Are they allowed to use their computer on your network? Or do they have to use a company computer? Can they work from home? Are you using AI or an ML? And if you're not, and it's restriction, let them know. Hiring. If you're going to hire that consultant, tell the consultant who they're going to be interacting with. They might need to talk with legal about the contract, accounting, accounts payable, IT, support personnel, any department that the consultant needs to interact with. If you give them that up front, they can get that all straightened away and hit the ground running on day one. So there's different types of working with consultants. There's hourly rate, there's a retainer, and at this point, I want to introduce my representative, my chief negotiator.
Not exactly sure what you mean. We've already offered you a position.
Nobody in this town works without a retainer, guys. You think you can find somebody who does? I tell you have my blessing. But I think we all know that person's not going to represent you as well as I can.
Will, our offer is $84,000 a year.
Retainer. Retainer.
You want us to give you cash right now?
Oh, no, I didn't say that. Allegedly, your situation for you would be concurrently improved if I had $200 in my back pocket.
Okay, retainers are handy to have a consultant on board for. They're someone that can be drawn upon. Maybe you're contracting for a few hours a month and you throw them whatever your hot problem is during your sprint, and they get that resolved for you and you make your sprint. So it's imagine having an expert resource that you can call for instant fixes and advice. Projects, bids, proposal, and turnkey. Larry touched upon that, and he said as long as you give him a good spec, he can do that. And that's true. It's an entirely different scale of documentation for the deliverable. You need a good spec. You have to have a good pre-ID, the list of deliverables, the delivery schedule, payment schedule, and more. Risk is put in the consultant for this. So if you don't have good documentation, the consultant has to protect themselves using that client-provided documentation. So it's got to be clearly understandable. You can hire the consultant to finish that bid package for you, and then you can make it a generic bid package, have that consultant bid on it, send it off to a bunch of other consultants and get it bid on. Now you've got a great bid package, and you can get really clear, concise bids back on it. Oh, by the way, any changes require a change order signed by all parties. So it does add cost if you add more to it. Would you like to become a consultant? There's less office politics, better pay. You might want to run your own business, be in management. You like meeting new people. You're working on diverse technologies routinely. You're improving your skill set all the time because every client's got something a little bit different. And you enjoy investigating and solving problems. There's also maybe some travel involved. So maybe those are pluses. So what does it take to become a consultant? You have to have knowledge that's marketable, near expert level experience in some discipline. And otherwise clients may not be interested. Experience not enough. That experience needs to be marketable. If you're a risk taker, that's going to be a big advantage in consulting. No aspects of engineering and engineering practices outside your core. Maybe you're a software engineer. Well, maybe you need to learn about the build server, how the build server actually operates. You can be more effective. Maybe you need to know about all source code management systems, not just one or two, but everything that people are using out there. Even if they're still using SVN, maybe you need to know that. Be a problem solver. Consultants solve problems. That's what they do. You have to communicate effectively. You have to work well with others, including difficult clients and difficult teams. Don't take things personally. Type of consultants. You can hire hourly staff, contract out on retainers, bids, proposal, turnkey projects, all types of consultants in software, hardware, electronics, mechanical, IT, project management. And you can find them at Boston CNET too. Here's an easier way to break into consulting. Use a professional staffing agency. Call up a headhunter. It's an easier way to break into consulting because there's less overhead for you, and there's no marketing. Your headhunter is your marketing department. You have to be a salesperson. You have to interview well. You have to sell yourself, but you don't have to find those clients. The headhunter finds the clients for you. No, less overhead. No need to establish your business or be incorporated. Be aware that the headhunter is going to take a fair cut of the contract rate, and the headhunter owns the client base. You won't be able to go work for that client after leaving the headhunter for a specific period of time. Usually it's a year. Find a headhunter that staffs in your field of interest. And sometimes the headhunters have two sides to them. They have a client side that talks to clients, and they have a contractor side that talks to contractors. So you want to speak to the contractor side. Negatives to using a headhunter, you're now a contractor. You might be treated like a contractor instead of a consultant. You might not be the expert. You just might be another pair of hands on deck. Your margins may be less than what you were worth. So clients, you need one client to get started. Your existing contact network needs to be extensive enough to find that client. And you'll need to continue to grow that network in order to find clients. It's all about networking. Most jobs and contracts are found through networking. Join forums, technical events, conferences, groups. Connect with people. Build a network of professionals that respect you. You can find new business through that network. Your website's not going to find that business for you. Building the network isn't easy. And being a consultant really isn't an easy path. It takes a lot of work. Make yourself known within your primary markets. Connect with other professionals, especially on LinkedIn and some social media. When you're on LinkedIn, and consultant coaches will tell you this, don't market yourself when you or sell yourself on the first contact. Just get connected. Introduce yourself. Talk about the technologies. Say, hey, I'm interested in your company's product. I've looked it up, and it's really interesting how you're doing this or that. As you establish a dialogue, then you can maybe open up potential contract work. Documentation and plans. You need a business plan. The business plan covers all major aspects of running your business and helps guide you through running that business. If there are investors, you'll definitely need a business plan. Project plan. If you're developing internal projects, you need a project plan. You can find templates for these, document up on the web, and just fill in the blanks kind of deal. Resumes. Yes, you need multiple resumes. More of a work summary of your work. The CV would be a complete history. The multiple resumes speak to various markets or various technologies that you're an expert in, and you float the proper resume to the client based upon what that client needs. You need follow-up letters, multiple different follow-up letters. You don't talk to the VP the same as a team member. You're going to send a different follow-up letter to the VP versus a team member. Remember to thank them for the time. They're going out of their way to help you in the interview process and see if you're a fit. You need business cards. You definitely need LinkedIn for you and your company. You should have a website, although it's going to be more like a calling card. If you are a consultant, then you need your incorporation document. If you're incorporated, your certificate of insurance, workers' comp, and you give that to the client. Usually, it's not usually through the manager that's hiring you. It's usually through some other department within the company. And you should be doing this in advance. If you're a business, get that done before you see your first client. You need a value proposition. So a value proposition is a statement that conveys what your brand does and how it differs from other competitors. And what it also does is it helps you understand what you were doing. Why do you need a value proposition? Well, what's different about your consulting business from the other contractors and consultants out there and the general workforce in general too? How are you going to convey that value proposition to potential clients? The value proposition goes in your business plan. Writing things down, all the type of things that you're thinking about your business, writing them down expresses your strength and exposes your weaknesses. And then you can refine that business plan. You can say, you know what, this looks a little bit weak here. I'm going to do some more work on this. I'm going to do some more investigation, and I'm going to figure out a better method. So value proposition clearly and concisely communicates what customers can gain. The value proposition can be used in a few ways. It's an answer to a question like, what does your company exactly do? Analyze the market, see where you fit best, tune your business to fit that market, and do market analysis. Specialize. Develop your brand and service offerings to meet your client base. In summary, And let's see if I'm running on time here. Yeah, I've got 1 minute left. Awesome. I can tell you that Boston CNET can help you with consulting and finding a consultant. We'd be happy to have you either find a consultant through us, or if you're a consultant, join our network. It's helpful to know what questions to ask and what information to supply a consultant. If you have that information up front in that slide I put through before, it's going to help the consultant. It's also going to help you figure out whether you want to hire that consultant. The consultant business is not really an easy way of earning a living. It requires a lot of work, and it's a lot more work than a regular W-2 job. Consultants have to understand, negotiate, and sign complex contracts. Can you negotiate? Consultants have to rise above politics within the company and be professional, especially when compared to an employee. You're not an employee, and you will be better off if you don't act like one. No complaints, only work progress. Consultants enjoy a wide level of freedom. Consultants aren't looking to advance their career at each company. You aren't trying to compete inside that company for the next better job opportunity. The client can run their business in whatever fashion they like. The consultants just advance the project, keep focused on the work. Consultants are usually active, energetic people that are extroverted. They enjoy dialogue with clients about complex technologies. If you're not a talker or risk taker, you might want to stick to your day job. Consulting is a very rewarding line of work. There are really great challenges to the work, but there's also, I think, great rewards. Do your job. If you're making forward progress every day, the client's definitely going to appreciate your efforts, and you'll increase your future opportunities at that company and other companies. Enjoy your job. Being a consultant often leads to enjoyable, high-level work, solving complex problems. Become the expert. Become an asset to the project you work on. Don't be negative. Don't take anything personal. Take care of business. If you're interested in what our website's doing, we have a new website. And I just wanted to put up some stats. If you're thinking about joining our network, we had 285 unique visitors to the website in the last 30 days. Some of them are clicking into our consultants directory. So if you're interested in joining, those are our stats. They're pretty good, I think. And why not become a member? Thanks for attending. I'm the last presenter. I'm going to turn it back over to Soren, and we're going to start doing Q&A.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you to the three presenters, and thank you all of you from our audience for participating by listening to us. And hopefully this has been a combination of things you know and things even if you knew you saw them before, maybe you saw a different angle, a different perspective on the things. We would like to open the floor for questions. I think, Mark, will be easier if you administer the question and dispatch them, because you have the whole control. Meanwhile, I'd like to put, you already put on the screen. I'd like to leave on the screen and just make it larger, Mark. This is a participant connecting points for people in the audience who would like to continue dialogue on a particular subject or is a particular person from the panel. These are the telephone and the emails and the sites where you can connect with us. Once again, thank you very much for participating, and don't be shy, ask the questions. And Mark, take it from here.
Okay. I would actually like someone else to do this, because I've got my screen full of this slide and I can't see the chat window very easily. So Charlie, are you available? Are you online there? And would you like to maybe read off stuff from the chat window?
Yeah, I mean, I could do it.
Well, this is Charlie.
I have the chat.
Charlie's our secretary at CNET, and he hasn't had a chance to be introduced yet, but I wanted to introduce him and let him get into this discussion with us, because he has valuable opinions on this stuff too.
Okay, there was something by Sanjeewa Harath. Thank you, great presentation. Can you please share a little bit more for someone new to consulting, how to enter the market? I mean, Mark, you did talk about that a fair amount, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'll take that one first, but I think we can all weigh in on this. Yeah, I definitely would recommend trying it out. Go to a headhunter. get your ducks in order first, figure out where your niche is, what your specialties are, tune your resume to that perspective, make an introductory letter for the headhunter, and bullet point some things for them, probably only 3. You don't want to get them too confused. And then ask them if they have clients that might be interested in your area of expertise. It's a good way to check out consulting and see how it meshes for you. But Larry and David could also share some information on this, and even Soren.
Yeah, this is Larry. One of the things that I did and continue to do off and on, attend trade shows and seminars and those types of things. I'm listed with Microchip as a embedded microprocessor consultant, all things Microchip. And I would go to beginning seminars that Microchip would host at their local regional technology center. And I would kind of sit in the back of the room. And as people were going along and, working through the exercises or what have you, if somebody was running into problems, I'd help them out. I would, lean over and explain, okay, this is where this is causing you a problem. Here's what you need to do. You missed this over here. And the people at Microchip liked it because the presenter could keep going while I was helping one or two of the slower people in the room, perhaps. And when all was said and done at the end of the day, they had my business card, and I was introduced as a consultant, independent consultant for Microchip. And I picked up several clients by helping out in the back of the room. And I was even picking up a few new things on whatever new technology they were presenting. So win-win situation. And similar thing at all the various technology shows and trade shows and those types of things. You get to talking with somebody, and the next thing you know, oh, you do that kind of work. Have you got a card on you? And away it goes from there. So that's a good way to get started, in addition to doing the job shopping or contract engineering.
Mark, I also wanted to throw in, both you and Larry did Consulting 101 and 102 not too long ago. And I think that had a lot of information for people who are just thinking about getting into it, and on some of the things about starting up the business, and all sorts of things that you really need to think about. That's not just from what am I going to do as technically as a consultant. It's, do you actually know how to write contracts? Do you need insurance? How do you incorporate? All those things were very important. I don't know if are any of the those slide decks still up on CNET?
Yeah. I'll fill everyone in on what we're talking about. Guys, we took a 3-hour presentations and we condensed them into 1 hour. Larry spoke for a whole hour on his topic. I spoke for a whole hour on becoming a consultant. David spoke for a whole hour about medical device consulting. And we just cut this down into 20 minutes. I have 30 slides on how to become a consultant, all of the aspects that you kind of want to think about. It's a program that we ran last year over 3 months, and it was very extensive. Really recommend coming back, seeing us when we rerun it again. If there's enough interest in the people that are here today, if you write into the chat window that you want us to do that 3-part series again, we'll put it on again, because it was very popular then. It might be very popular. Maybe people didn't show up for it then. Maybe they just found out about us today, and you want us to do that 3-part series again. We could do that.
I also wanted to put in a plug for the New Hampshire IEEE on March 26th as an online presentation coming up, strategic transition from W-2 to independent consulting. they'll be going over a lot of those things as well.
And in addition to that, if you go onto YouTube and within YouTube, you do a search for IEEE USA webinars or seminars, there are a whole bunch of different seminars on consulting and business topics that may be able to help you. They have IEEE offers insurance, and their insurance provider put on a seminar about the different types of insurance that are available through the IEEE plan. And then I've done consulting presentations, as have others. So there's a lot of that information available up there in videos.
I like just to add a point. Several months ago, we had the event. We had a very interesting event, and the speaker was a very well articulated and informed lady from Colorado, Melissa Lieberman, when she's a consultant coach and is teaching all kinds of courses associated with the activity. And one element she put up forward, and I think will be useful to be appended as an answer to the question of what can you recommend somebody who is starting to be a consultant, is it is very important for a consultant to present the attitude. The consultant will be a consultant in the field. He is knowledgeable. So he's in front of a prospective customer. The consultant has to be on his feet, has to be very, very confident, has to project confidence, has to project the fact that he knows how to be successful for himself and to make other people to be successful, to project an attitude that he's assuming responsibility for success of a team. So the point made by Melissa was that besides the technical expertise, beside the civilized professional appearance, it is very important in the business of consultant, at least at the beginning of the career, when you are a little bit more defensive, I would say, that you go over this defensiveness and you present yourself as a real yourself. So for the gentleman who has a question, I think being of the proper attitude and the proper vocabulary and the proper demeanor in the conversation with the customer is very important in starting a successful consulting business.
Okay. Thanks, Soren. There aren't too many new questions in the chat. There are a few people who've expressed interest in the longer three-part series. Does anyone have any more items to add to the chat that they want to discuss?
This is Kim. I can probably put in a couple of things. I think it was Mark.
You could just tell us the questions if you'd like.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was hoping I could just tell you rather than saying it. I think it was Mark that was talking about, I think, even getting investors for a consulting company, value of business plan. You might mention the kind of various modes that small consultants often do, sole proprietor, S Corp, LLC, that kind of thing. Those would be good things to mention somewhere, I think.
They're in my 1 hour presentation. I cut out a lot of content. Every single type that you just mentioned is in my 1 hour presentation.
I figured it was. My only other comment to you, Mark, and I don't mean this to be rude. Make more slides with a bigger font. I can't read it. It's just too small.
I appreciate the input. Thank you. I will correct that.
Yeah, just more slides. I mean, you can break it out. It doesn't have to all fit on one.
Yeah. Note these presentations will be saved, I believe, in the members only, but maybe it's general public area of our website. Mark can tell you about it.
Yeah, the recording and all of the PDFs of the slideshows, they go up in a members only area. And all of our presentations over the last few years, I took everything off the old website and put them on our new website. You can go back for years and find, for instance, Melissa Lieberman's presentation. You can find that there. You can find all of our Zoom recordings from everything in the past. And and all of the 3-part series is up there right now.
Will you let attendees who are not members have a lookie at least today's presentation?
Well, Larry offered to send his presentation off to you, so you can definitely get Larry's. As far as the other presentations, is up to the individual people if they want to send them off, but we normally just put them up in our members only area.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Not only that, I'll post it on my own website as well. So,
I mean, like I'm a member. Larry Nagel, Stephanie, and I. We're all members of IEEE CNSV. You know, we might be good to talk about some kind of reciprocal arrangement, sharing arrangement between groups. You know, I mean, we're all in this together.
Yep. I think what was his last name? Bert, or your president? He's asked to have
David Snyder.
No, it was
Brian Berg.
Yeah,
Berg is a past chair.
It's Daryl Griffin. Daryl Griffin, I think.
No. It's Berg. So we've had a conversation over a few months to get a relationship between CNSSV and Boston CNET.
Well, I think it's a very valuable suggestion. I think that's doable. We just have to figure out how to do it right from the beginning, so I don't have to do it in steps.
And for example, if you go to our website that I listed the URL there, californiaconsultants.org, if you go to past events, you'll find PDFs and a lot of Zoom videos of many of our events, and they're on our public site. We don't put them in members only. So that's another way to go.
We can try that, Mark. We should talk it. We should talk it offline.
Sounds good. Any other questions?
Let's see. I thought, Kim, I thought there was a lot of good material, and I suspect your longer sessions, like you said, would have a great deal more detail that would probably be very, very useful. So yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that if you're able to put it on again later. And I would say, you know, we could try to arrange something jointly on that, you know, so you get a little more visibility to the West Coast as well.
Sure. We definitely consider that.
That would be interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else, Charlie?
I don't see anything new. There are appreciated agent said very good info. Appreciate if I can get the long presentation, please. I don't know what the mechanism is. Do we have the email addresses of all attendees so we could?
Yeah, we have all the contact information.
That's what I thought. So perhaps if we look over the messages, we could then send it to everyone who's interested. Other than that, I don't see any new questions.
Anybody want to throw in a question from that hasn't been able to participate yet?
Well, if there are no more questions, thank you very much for your participation and for your suggestion. We are going to discuss it with our colleagues offline, and using the member list for this meeting, we are going to be communicating back to you how we are going to organize the response to different suggestions you came to us. It was a pleasure to meet you over the wave and to feel solidarity in our consulting endeavors. Thank you very much for being with us, and we'll be in touch. Have a very pleasant evening.
Hey, Soren, one last thing. Our next meeting is March 19th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. It's on topics in entrepreneurial technical leadership, and Soren Markovici will be the speaker. So hope to see you there. You can find the event for our event list, or the link is right here for our website. And hope to see you.
Are your meetings hybrid? Are you on Zoom also and live, or only live, or only Zoom, or what?
Yeah, we're currently only Zoom.
Okay. We run ours as hybrid. So we have an in-person part and a Zoom part that everybody can get access to. And after COVID, we see about the same number on each part, 40, 50 on Zoom, 40, 50 in person sometimes.
Great.
Okay.
We'll try to do it in the near future. For the time being, we are limited to Zoom.
Sure. No, I understand. All right. Well, thanks to all of you, everybody that participated. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for
Bye-bye.
coming.
All right.